If you own one of these 5 bikes, don't list it yet. What's happening right now could change everything. 2025 just became the year no rider saw coming. 5 legendary motorcycle brands, names that built our culture, our roads, and our memories, have all crashed in the same season. Dealerships are closing, parts are vanishing, resale prices are collapsing faster than anyone imagined. But it's not just about money, it's about trust. These were the bikes that defined freedom, the soundtracks of every back road and every open mile, the machines that fathers passed down to sons. And now, they're the same machines riders can't even sell. How did it happen so fast? How did the brands that survived wars, recessions, and decades of competition lose control in one single year? If you own one, your pride, your parts, and your wallet are all at risk. Stay to the end, because number 1 on this list isn't just a brand, it's a symbol of freedom that every rider thought was untouchable. And when I show you what's happening behind the scenes, you'll understand why no motorcycle name is truly safe anymore. Plus, I'll give you a 60-second checklist to protect your bike's value before it's too late. Now let's start with the first name that fell. Number 5. Suzuki. There was a time when this name stood for something every American rider could trust. Suzuki was the motorcycle for men who worked with their hands, who wanted the freedom of the open road without surrendering a month's wages to get it. It was the dependable choice, the bike that always started, that ran smooth, and that kept rolling long after the warranty expired. From the dirt tracks of small-town America to cross-country highways, its machines carried working men home, to work, and everywhere in between. In 2025, that once solid image has begun to crack. The company that once spoke the language of reliability and value now finds itself fading into the background of a changing industry. For decades, Suzuki defined practical motorcycling. It was never the loudest, flashiest, or most luxurious, but it was always there, steady, affordable, and tough. Older riders remember those bikes as companions rather than machines. They were the bikes that took them to their first rally, the bikes that ran through every season without complaint. Mechanics trusted them because they were built with straightforward engineering and a simplicity that never asked for more than a wrench and a little patience. Riders called it the blue-collar brand because it never tried to sell a lifestyle, it just delivered miles. But in the last few years, that quiet dependability has turned into silence. Dealerships that once dotted small towns have closed their doors, and the shelves that once carried parts now sit bare. Riders who stayed loyal find themselves driving farther and paying more just to keep their old machines running. Meanwhile, newer brands have taken the spotlight, offering advanced technology, modern comfort, and a sense of excitement that Suzuki's lineup no longer delivers. It is not that the motorcycles stopped being good, it is that they stopped evolving. The company's retreat from racing sent a message many riders did not want to hear. For generations, Suzuki's presence on the track proved it still had fire in its veins. Every win was a signal that innovation was alive and well. When that effort disappeared, so did the confidence that the brand still had a plan for the future. Now, instead of celebrating victories, riders are asking questions about direction and leadership. Suzuki's once practical designs now feel frozen in time as rivals charge ahead with bold styling and modern technology. What was once dependable now seems dated, appealing more to memory than momentum. Yet loyalty endures. Riders still polish their bikes and speak of them like trusted friends. Suzuki remains a symbol of honesty and reliability, but as dealerships fade and innovation slows, even devotion begins to sound like nostalgia. Suzuki's struggle is not with quality, but with relevance. Once the quiet workhorse of honest performance, it now fades amid louder, flashier rivals. A motorcycle can last forever, but it must still inspire. And Suzuki has lost that spark. For older riders, the decline feels personal. What once symbolized simple independence now drifts in a culture where riding is identity, and practicality no longer defines freedom on the open road. Still, there is hope. The engineering foundation is strong, and the reputation for reliability is intact. If Suzuki can find its courage again, revive its dealer network, invest in bold new designs, and reconnect with the riders who made it what it was. It could reclaim its place among America's trusted names. But without that spark, the story will remain the same. A great brand quietly slipping out of sight, remembered more for what it once was than what it still could be. The next brand on this list shows how passion and heritage, no matter how deep, can fade just as quickly when the market moves on. What begins as love for craftsmanship can turn into a struggle for survival when the road ahead demands reinvention. If you're still watching, you're part of the riders who care about the truth. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Tell us which brand's downfall shocked you most. Number 4. Moto Guzzi. There are motorcycle companies that build machines, and there are those that build emotion. Moto Guzzi has always belonged to the latter. For over a century, it has represented the soul of Italian motorcycling, bold, artistic, and defiantly individual. This was the brand for riders who didn't follow the crowd, who preferred craftsmanship over conformity, and who believed a motorcycle should feel alive beneath them. On quiet Sunday rides or through twisting mountain roads, the name carried a rhythm that spoke to the heart more than the stopwatch. But in 2025, that rhythm has grown faint, echoing from a past when passion was enough to keep a company alive. Born on the shores of Lake Como in the early 1920s, the brand was founded by 3 visionaries, military veterans who dreamed of freedom in a world still healing from war. They believed motorcycles could bring people together, and that belief turned into a legacy. For decades, the Eagle badge stood as a symbol of freedom and craftsmanship, a marriage between mechanical genius and human artistry. Every bike that left the factory carried that philosophy in its frame, timeless, distinctive, and unapologetically different. Riders who chose this brand weren't looking for speed alone. They wanted connection. The transverse twin engine was more than a power plant. It was a heartbeat. The way it pulsed through the frame gave the motorcycle a soul, a living presence that few others could replicate. Every ride felt intimate, personal, and grounded in something deeper than horsepower or top speed. It was about feeling every vibration, every turn, every note of that unique rhythm. But time has a way of testing even the strongest legacies. As other manufacturers raced ahead with rapid innovation, Moto Guzzi stayed true to its roots. Its designs changed little, its technology evolved slowly, and its marketing remained understated. For purists, that was a comfort, a sign that the company refused to chase trends. For the broader market, though, it became a problem. What once looked classic now looks dated, and what once sounded soulful now seems quiet in a world that moves fast. In America, the challenge has been even steeper. The network of dealerships that once carried these motorcycles has thinned to a handful of loyal shops, leaving riders without easy access to parts or service. Many who would love to own one hesitate, not because they doubt the bike, but because they fear being stranded without support. When your brand depends on loyalty, absence is the one thing it cannot afford. The result is a kind of quiet erosion, a slow fading from public view. Yet, among those who know, devotion runs deep. There is a brotherhood among owners who see their machines as something sacred. They gather at rallies and share stories about how the sound of that old V-twin can stir memories like an old song. These are riders who understand that perfection isn't the goal. Feeling is. To them, every oil-stained hand and every mile traveled is part of the bond. Moto Guzzi has always been more than a company. It has been a companion to those who value authenticity over approval. Still, the world is changing. Modern riders demand versatility, technology, and reliability that fits into fast-paced lives. They want touchscreens, connectivity, and ride modes, features that Moto Guzzi has been slow to embrace. While its charm remains untouched, its appeal risks shrinking to nostalgia. In an era when motorcycles must prove themselves both on the road and online, the Italian Eagle's silence on innovation speaks volumes. Under larger ownership, Moto Guzzi has been stretched thin, surviving more on heritage than investment. Factory upgrades and special models promise revival, yet its presence in the United States remains faint. Still, the name endures with unshakable dignity. Each motorcycle carries craftsmanship, grace, and soul. Built for those who ride for the experience, not attention, reminding the world that true character outlasts trends, fame, and the fleeting noise of modern markets. In 2025, the challenge for Moto Guzzi is not survival, it is relevance. To endure, it must find the balance between the old and the new, between art and progress. It must prove that tradition can evolve without losing its soul. Because when heritage becomes hesitation, even the proudest eagle can lose its flight. For now, it remains a living relic, a reminder that motorcycles were once built by hand, by heart, and by men who rode to feel alive. Its future will depend on whether that spirit can still find a place in a world of algorithms and automation. The next brand on this list shows how even beauty and performance can falter when exclusivity becomes isolation, and when passion alone is no longer enough to keep the wheels turning. Riders help riders. Grab the proven gear and accessories in the description. Let's roll. Number 3. MV Agusta. Some motorcycle names are spoken with respect, others with awe, and a few with a kind of quiet reverence. MV Agusta has always belonged to that last category. It is a brand that treated motorcycles as fine art. Machines sculpted not merely to move, but to inspire. For decades, the name has stood as a symbol of Italian mastery, a fusion of beauty, speed, and passion that could stir emotion before the engine even started. Every motorcycle it produced felt deliberate, like a statement of intent. This was not transportation, it was a vision of perfection on two wheels. The story of MV Agusta began in the aftermath of the Second World War. What started as a small aircraft manufacturer on the edge of survival became a force that dominated motorcycling's golden age. Through the 1950s and 1960s, its racing machines ruled the world stage, claiming victory after victory and building a reputation that few brands could ever match. Riders like Giacomo Agostini turned the company's colors, red and silver, into an emblem of prestige and power. For a time, MV Agusta wasn't just a brand. It was the standard by which all others were measured. But the very traits that made the company legendary have also made it fragile. MV Agusta was never built for mass production. It was a brand for the few, a maker of motorcycles that demanded attention and carried a price worthy of their craftsmanship. Each machine was designed with a kind of obsessive detail that bordered on perfectionism, and that pursuit of artistry often came at the expense of practicality. Where other manufacturers expanded into global markets and streamlined production, MV Agusta chose to remain small, exclusive, and deeply traditional. That decision gave it identity, but it also sowed the seeds of its struggle in 2025. In the modern market, exclusivity is both a blessing and a curse. Riders admire the Italian maker for its elegance and emotional power, but few can afford it, and even fewer can maintain it. In America, ownership has become a commitment that goes far beyond the initial purchase. Parts can be difficult to source, service centers are scarce, and waiting times can stretch long enough to test any rider's patience. What was once a dream for enthusiasts has, for some, become a test of endurance. Yet there is something undeniably magnetic about the brand. Its motorcycles carry a kind of drama that no other manufacturer can replicate. The sweeping lines, the way the engine sings at high revs, the craftsmanship that feels more personal than mechanical. It all adds up to an experience that reminds riders why they fell in love with motorcycles in the first place. Every MV Agusta tells a story not of convenience, but of passion. And for those who own one, that passion outweighs every frustration. The company's history is filled with moments of brilliance and heartbreak. After its golden age, ownership shifted multiple times, each new chapter promising revival, but never quite securing lasting stability. Investors came and went, each bringing hope and uncertainty in equal measure. While the machines remained extraordinary, the brand's direction often felt uncertain. The motorcycles never lost their soul, but the business side seemed to forget how to protect it. Today, MV Agusta still builds motorcycles that command admiration, but it fights to remain relevant in a world where success is measured by consistency, not charisma. The craftsmanship remains world-class, yet the company struggles to build confidence among riders who want assurance that their investment will be supported years down the line. The lack of a strong dealer network and the high cost of ownership have turned what should be a thrilling experience into a rare luxury. It is still an aspirational brand, but one that too often lives in the pages of magazines instead of the lanes of small-town America. For seasoned riders, MV Agusta still embodies the spirit of motorcycling, where art meets danger and beauty meets engineering. They recall its roaring race victories and timeless elegance. Yet to younger generations, it feels like a distant legend. In 2025, the question isn't about its brilliance, but its survival. Whether a brand born from exclusivity can endure in a world that now demands accessibility, relevance, and reinvention. The future of MV Agusta will depend on whether it can reconnect with the spirit of its earliest days, when it built motorcycles not just to be admired, but to be ridden. Its survival will require more than elegance. It will demand courage, clarity, and commitment. The brand remains a masterpiece in motion, but even masterpieces must adapt to time. The next name on this list shows that even the strongest American icons are not immune to change. Heritage, no matter how powerful, must still prove itself on the road. Number 2. Indian Motorcycle. For generations, Indian Motorcycle has been more than a brand. It has been a part of America's story. Long before highways stretched from coast to coast, Indian was already carving its legend into the open road. It was the machine of soldiers, racers, and working men, a symbol of independence and pride that rode through the nation's history. From the early 1900s, when its engines thundered through dusty fairgrounds and army camps, to its modern revivals, Indian represented something unshakable in the American spirit, a determination to move forward no matter the odds. But in 2025, that legacy finds itself in a familiar fight for survival. The journey of Indian has never been a straight road. It has climbed, fallen, and risen again, carried by loyal riders who refuse to let the name die. For decades, it stood shoulder to shoulder with Harley-Davidson, battling for dominance in showrooms and on racetracks. Its motorcycles were known for their power, their unmistakable style, and their willingness to work as hard as the men who rode them. The company's machines became cultural icons, sleek, muscular, and proud. Yet the very traditions that built its identity have become the challenges it now faces. When Polaris revived Indian in the early 2010s, it felt like a true American resurrection, powerful, authentic, and beautifully crafted. The rivalry with Harley roared back to life, proving tradition still mattered. Yet over time, the spark faded. The bikes remained exceptional, but the market changed. Aging riders clung to nostalgia while younger ones sought lighter, modern machines. Indian found itself caught between heritage and relevance, struggling to bridge generations of riders. Across America, the dealer network has also become a quiet concern. Compared to the vast reach of Harley-Davidson, Indian's presence feels small and scattered. In some regions, riders must travel long distances just to find a showroom or service center. That kind of distance creates hesitation, and hesitation kills momentum. A motorcycle brand lives or dies by its accessibility, and for Indian, the challenge has been keeping its legacy within reach of those who still believe in it. Indian's identity sits between past and future, balancing timeless chrome and the proud war bonnet with the need to attract younger, performance-driven riders. Some see evolution, others see compromise. Yet riding one explains its worth. The rhythm of power and grace, the deep rumble beneath you, and that rare sense of connection. For many, it's more than a motorcycle. It's a loyal companion on life's open, endless road. But emotion alone cannot hold a brand together. The motorcycle world is changing faster than ever, and every company must evolve or be left behind. Electric innovation, connected technology, and lighter builds are reshaping what riders expect. Indian has dipped its toe into modernization, but progress has been cautious, even hesitant. The brand's devotion to its roots, while admirable, has also made it vulnerable. Heritage gives it weight, but that weight can also slow it down. For older riders, Indian remains a badge of pride, a symbol of craftsmanship that speaks to an era when motorcycles were about grit and heart. For newer generations, however, the name feels distant, a classic story they respect, but one they do not yet feel a part of. To bridge that gap, Indian must rediscover the same spirit that carried it through its past resurrections: courage, adaptation, and a willingness to take risks. In 2025, Indian stands on a knife's edge between nostalgia and necessity. It still has the tools, the talent, and the trust of riders who believe in it. But to thrive again, it must find a way to inspire the next wave of riders who will carry its story forward. History can light the path, but it cannot be the fuel forever. The next and final brand on this list proves that even a legend that wants to find the sound of American freedom can struggle with the same questions: how to evolve, how to adapt, and how to keep the engine of tradition running in a world that keeps racing ahead. If protecting the future of real motorcycling matters to you, subscribe now. Join thousands of riders keeping these stories alive before the last great names disappear from America's roads. Number 1. Harley-Davidson. No other name carries the same thunder in the hearts of American riders as Harley-Davidson. It is not just a motorcycle brand, it is a way of life, a symbol of independence forged in steel and sweat. For more than a century, Harley has represented the open road, the call of freedom, and the strength of American craftsmanship. The deep rumble of its engines has been the soundtrack to generations of men who believed that freedom was something you could feel beneath you, between your hands and through your chest. Yet in 2025, even this living legend faces a challenge it cannot outrun. The world around it is changing faster than the company that once defined it. Harley began in a small Milwaukee shed in the early 1900s when 4 young men turned grit into legacy. From that humble start grew an empire that carried America through wars, built its roads, and inspired generations. Harley sold more than motorcycles. It sold freedom itself. Through triumphs and hardships, that promise endured, echoing from hometown garages to the long open miles of Route 66, where independence still rides. But the open road has changed. The riders who built Harley's empire are now older, and the new generation doesn't always hear the same call. The culture of riding, once about rebellion and brotherhood, has shifted toward practicality and technology. The big, heavy cruiser that symbolized freedom for so long now struggles to appeal to a younger crowd raised on sleek designs, electric power, and instant convenience. Harley's identity, once crystal clear, now sits at a crossroads between heritage and relevance. The company's strength has always been its loyalty. No other motorcycle maker in the world can claim a community as devoted or as passionate as Harley's. From massive rallies like Sturgis and Daytona to weekend rides that end at the same diner every Sunday, Harley riders form a family bound not by blood, but by belief. They share stories of miles conquered, of engines rebuilt, and of friendships forged over long rides and longer nights. That loyalty is a fortress few brands could ever build. But even the strongest fortresses need to evolve, or they risk becoming monuments to what once was. For many longtime riders, Harley represents a bond that can't be broken. The feel of a V-twin engine beneath you, the sight of chrome glinting in the sun, and the pride of riding something that feels as American as the flag itself. These are things that don't fade easily. Yet there's a growing awareness that the company's core audience is aging, and that without new blood, the roar of that legendary engine might one day fade to silence. Harley's challenge is no longer about making great motorcycles, it's about making them matter to the next generation. The company has tried to adapt. Electric prototypes, lighter models, and new designs have all made their way into the lineup, each one an attempt to bridge the gap between tradition and innovation. But balancing those two worlds is not easy. The same design language that makes a Harley instantly recognizable also makes it hard to reinvent. Every change risks alienating those who love the brand for what it has always been. Every attempt to modernize invites criticism from purists who see progress as betrayal. Harley stands between two fires, one demanding evolution, the other insisting on preservation. The pricing of its machines has also become a challenge. What was once the bike of the working man now carries the price of luxury. For decades, Harley was attainable, a symbol of pride earned through hard work. But as costs have climbed, the dream of owning one has drifted out of reach for many riders. It is a paradox. The motorcycle that once belonged to everyone now feels reserved for a few. That shift has quietly changed the way people see the brand, not as a necessity for freedom, but as an aspiration that fewer can afford to chase. The heart of Harley-Davidson refuses to quit. Every rally, every lone rider, every mile reminds America that its spirit endures. Through wars, recessions, and revolutions, it has emerged battered but never broken. In 2025, the company stands at a defining crossroads, challenged to honor its legacy without being bound by it, to inspire the young without losing the old. The task is immense, but resilience is its tradition, and the roar of freedom still echoes wherever its riders ride. For now, the name still means freedom. It still means power, identity, and pride. The sound of a Harley rolling down a quiet road at dusk remains one of the purest symbols of America itself. And as long as there are riders who believe in that sound, the legend will not die. It will simply wait for the next generation to rediscover what freedom really feels like when it rumbles through steel and air. The open road is more than distance. It's freedom, identity, and legacy. These brands built America's spirit, but their future depends on us. Subscribe, share, and ride proud. Keep their stories alive forever.